Hello, everyone. It says I am live. My camera seems to be a little bit off here. Bad angle. Let me know if you can hear me in the comments. I just want to double check my microphone is working and make sure tech is working right. I love teaching Silhouette. I love teaching technology for crafters in the fact of software and cut files, but going live is not my, I'm not an expert there. So awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Teresa is joining in from London. We have somebody from Australia. We have somebody that's a sort of neighbor to me in Kansas City, about 3 hours away. We are expecting another snowstorm. We could get anywhere from 0 to 12 inches. It depends on what forecast you're looking at. So I'm going to jump right in here for tonight's live. And first, I want to do the housekeeping for every live. I want to make sure that you understand what I'm looking at. So I do have a dual monitor set up. The YouTube studio is to the right. So when you see me look right, that means I am looking at the screen and your comments. And my camera is forward facing where my Silhouette software is located. I also have an outline of the class notes of what we'll cover today. So when I look right, I'm trying to stay on topic and not get too far in the ozone. However, this is a live tutorial, and that means that it is for you. The ones who are watching live can ask questions. We can go down a different path. I try to keep the initial questions topic focused so that we are covering what I have announced this morning, because sometimes I don't know until right beforehand what we're going to do. I didn't get any ideas from my newsletter for people's suggestions. So that means I think everybody just knows what they know and they don't know what they don't know. So this one hit me. And if you have questions about this topic tonight is about color fonts. If you have questions about color fonts in general or fonts, this is a perfect time to ask. We can open up at the end of the live for general questions and answers, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So I'm going to go ahead right off the bat. My name is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, if you have never been or seen my YouTube channels before. I have been teaching Silhouette classes since 2016. I have online step-by-step classes on my Teachable site, and I have been writing blog tutorials and teaching at in-person events since 2016. But I'm not just a teacher. I am a maker and creator. I use these machines. I use them for my own personal use, and I create all kinds of things. I love to create with the machines and see what they can do. So how many in the comments, how many of you have used color fonts before? How many of you have never even heard of what a color font is? I would love to know so we can get an idea. And if you have questions, let's go ahead. We can start with some questions if you want. And I'll go ahead and I'll explain kind of what color fonts are. The best way to do that, I am going to switch over to my screen. Hopefully I don't lose you here. A couple people. Teresa, of course, has used them. She is an expert. Make sure to check out her projects on the Silhouette Secrets Facebook group because she has some amazing projects and I love it. Oftentimes I don't have the time to sit down and really dive in when I really want to for a project. And then I see something Teresa's done and everything else goes out the window. Maybe that's why I have projects everywhere. Lynette says she has a few in her arsenal that she hasn't actually used yet. So hopefully you'll use them after tonight. Heard of them, never tried them. Don't know what a color font is. Never heard of them. Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining in. And I hope you pick up a few tips and learn a few things tonight. So let me switch over to my screen. And we will try to take a look. Okay. I can see it. If you cannot see my Silhouette software, please let me know. Okay. So on my screen, you are seeing my Silhouette library. These are fonts in my fonts folder, and these are the color fonts that have come up when I search the library for color fonts. Color fonts are similar to dingbats, except that so a dingbat font, each character of the alphabet will be a shape, and they range. There's so many different options. Color fonts are dingbats with colors, except that they are simply an image. So we'll get into some of the specifics of what you can and you can't do with a color font. So I wanted to show you, and I wish I could blow this up even more, but in the bottom right corner where my head is hiding is the little thumbnails. I am maxed out on the thumbnails. So what I'm going to do is tonight, I wanted to share with you a color font. I'm going to use this one as an example. So Suzanne Cannon with Quiet Fire Designs is the February collaborative artist for the Silhouette Secrets newsletter. I'll drop a link to the newsletter in the chat comments here in case you are not signed up for the newsletter. Every month I have a new free file and I try to work with a collaborative designer. Months that I don't get a response from a designer, then I will design something to give away for free. But this month, the files are from Suzanne Cannon, and I will show them up close here, but I'll give you a quick look. So this is the files. If you can see that, this is a 3D tote. She provided the 3D tote cut file as well as the pattern for the tropical fishes. So I will show this again here in just a little bit, along with the other project I have created so far this month for sharing in the newsletter. With the free file, every single week, I share a new project. So I am trying to inspire you to think outside the box and to get more out of your designs. So one file, and I will create between 4 and 5 different projects with it each month, depending on how many weeks are in the month. Sometimes that 5th week is a little bit difficult. But I do try to pick files and request files from the designers that will be very helpful to you or are very universal. So I saw this month, since I've been following Quiet Fire on social media, that she had released this brand new Valentine Love color monogram font, but it didn't get released in time for Valentine's Day because it wasn't approved in the design store fast enough. So she doesn't know I'm doing this. I grabbed the font and I wanted to use it in tonight's demonstration. So a color font, there are a few examples here on the screen. There are images, and it is a font that you type out. It is installed on your computer, and you type it out, and each of the letters will give you a different design. So let's take a look. This is the one I'll use tonight in tonight's demonstration. Here's another one that's called, let's see, I don't know. And I do have to apologize. I wish this was better. Some of these are going to be blurry. Actually, on your screen, it looks better than it does on my screen, looking at it on YouTube. So this is a bunch of images, animals that are hiding behind things. That's just another example. So these are fonts that I have in my library. You have some holly tags, so you could use these at Christmas time. And it comes in with the color, as long as the font is designed properly and works in Silhouette. So I throw in these caveats. Some of these thumbnails will show up blurry, and that's why I wish it was better, but there's nothing I can do about it. It should show up like this one, where it's a nice, crisp image. But since the Silhouette website migration, thumbnails are a bit iffy, and it can be frustrating. So this particular font I used in my blog post tutorial that I wrote out in 2020. And I have that linked in the video description for additional resources as well. So I share how they can be used if you are more of a written tutorial type of person. And that is in the description of this video and I'll add things to the video for reference based on your questions. And I also need to add the install fonts link on there. I'll do that after the video's over. But that gives you a little bit of an overview. So all of your color fonts could be different, and every designer designs things differently. This one down here is all about fall earrings. So it's all kinds of different earring shapes that are fall. Well, it says fall, but those are hearts. It has the color of fall, I guess is how they're determining it. But so each font can vary in many different ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the design tab. And I'm going to just simply type out on the left-hand side. I'm going to select the letter A, and then I'm going to click on my design mat. I'm going to type out hello, and then I'm going to click off of it. If I click back on it one time, then I can change the text properties. I'm going to come over to the right-hand side, and when your fonts are installed, there will be a link in the description below after this video on how to install fonts on your computer. They get installed on the computer system and are pulled from your fonts folder on your computer. They're from the Silhouette Design Store if it's working properly. If your library works properly and syncs up correctly, sometimes those fonts will show up in the library under the fonts folder. At this time, it's no guarantee, but you can still install those fonts directly on your computer for use. So I have this font selected, or this text selected. I'm simply going to come over here and highlight in this text box where the name shows. And since I know the name of it, it's QFD space Valentine Love. I'm going to type that and I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to automatically change to that font. So what you can see here is that I'm going to change my page here so it's bigger. And I can increase this. So I typed out just a simple word, and each letter is a different image. Now, working with color fonts can be a little bit different than working with a regular typed font, because you cannot change a color font in any way. If I wanted to work with these letters individually, and I have typed them out in my text box, if I try to ungroup them, if I right click, and I'm going to show you on the screen here so you can see it, you lose your color properties. Anytime you change it or try to change it, you lose your color properties. Now, in other software programs, that's not typically how color fonts act, but in Silhouette, it does. And even since I wrote the tutorial in 2020, the behavior has been the same. So I'm going to show you how you can work with that. So that is the first thing, is that color fonts are designed for print and cut projects. Because they are color, they have different graphics with them. They are designed specifically for print and cut projects. You cannot change it. You can't ungroup. You cannot convert to path. I'm going to hit undo here. You cannot weld, even though these letters aren't overlapping. If I choose weld, you lose the color properties. I'm going to hit undo again. Color fonts are designed if you want to cut out the letter. I'm going to click on send. They have cut lines around the outer edge of the font only. So let's zoom in on, we'll just do the E, for example. The cut line is around the outer edge of your letter. That's it. It is not created with individual cut pieces. And there is no way to get individual cut pieces unless you wanted to trace the entire file. But typically that doesn't work very well either. So if I come back here to the design tab. Now the easiest way to work with the color font, even if you want to type and you wanted the entire word, would be to make one, let's see, I'm just going to make a copy of this. Control C, Control V, Double click on it to get the text properties back. And then I'm going to delete it. So this way it maintains the same font style I've chosen, but now I can type an individual letter. So if I'm working with color fonts, every letter I want to work with, I want to make that an individual text box so that I can work with it. But you also need to be aware, okay, keep in mind, we cannot change this at all. If we change it, it loses its color. So you need to be aware that these texts or these fonts also have excess space around the letters. So on the B, you have some excess space on the left, on the right, and down below. It is still editable text, which means I can go in and I can change it to, if I double click, I can change this to a C. Or let's see if I can get a G. I was looking for something that has something hanging down here. Because it's editable text, it has to account for every single letter that's in the entire font file and be able to account for the space that it would take if you decided to change that letter. So you have this excess space. Since we cannot change the text in any way, we cannot really get an accurate sizing. So when you are designing with these, using the center, align center, it's going to be off because it goes by the selection box. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of eyeballing or using the rulers to get your designs perfectly centered. Those are some things to be aware of. Let's see. We have covered the basics of your color fonts. All of them can vary. It is a very neat way to get multiple graphics in one file, the same way that a dingbat font is multiple images or multiple shapes within one file. Now, a trick here is because you never really know what is in a font. I'm going to start a new design tab here so we can see it. You can access, wait a second, let me go back here. You can access the color fonts in the glyphs panel, but it only shows you a black outline. So if you can see that over here, all you see is a black outline. So sometimes it can be, you just don't know what you have to work with. So a trick to do that, and you can even save this with your file if you wanted to, is you can just type out the alphabet. So here, because I have the font, I started new. Let me just change the font. So I have Valentine. I'm going to double click on it so I can type again. And then I'm just going to type out okay, my computer was running a little slow. Now you do have to keep in mind, it is a font, it is a graphic, which can cause your computer to process a little bit. Mine's processing more just because I'm on YouTube and I'm recording and all that kind of stuff. But if you didn't know, when you type out on a line and you see this little green bar on the right, that is how you can extend your text line, if you did not know that. So I want to add that in there. But you can bring in and type out the alphabet. Let's just enlarge this. It'll take my computer a little bit to process that. And you can see exactly what is in the font file. Now let's see here if there are numbers to this one. So each font, because each designer is different, could design it differently. So I'm just going to type this out here. Oh, hold on a second. My windows are in the way. Okay. And you just have to be patient with your computer. Oops, 10 I don't need. So 9 is on the edge. Hold on one second. My computer will catch up. And it would just depend on your computer, on your processing. Like I said, my computer, I can tell, is running faster or running more, I guess, processing more, simply because I have a lot going on. So I'll just extend this out here a little bit. But it also shows you that it's not just you that might run into problems at times. 8, 9. There we go. So we have numbers now. So you can see very small on the screen here, all the different letters and options you have within this font. So if you have any questions, drop those in the chat now. Yes. Vanessa says, thank you for putting the written file up to come back to. Yes, there is a written tutorial in the video description. So I do not expect you to remember everything that I cover. Sometimes I can't remember the things I cover in the video. I'm going to close this because it is very graphic heavy, very processing power on my computer. So I'm just going to close this. It's going to ask me if I want to save. I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to show you a demonstration, actually 2 if we have time, with this file. It's just going to take it a second. Or it'll crash my computer. Either one. Typically, I don't have that problem, but it's because I have YouTube going. Oh, great. Edward says he did not know you could extend a text line like that. Great. I'm glad you learned something new tonight. Even if it's just one thing that you take away from this. Even if it's just a refresher, that's helpful to know too. So the first thing you can do is you can create a simple card just using with print and cut. I created, if you need a quick card for someone, you could make a monogram card. My daughter doesn't know this yet, but she'll be getting that card. So I'm going to come up here and I'm simply going to go to the left side, grab my text tool. I'm going to type out the letter E, click off of it one time, and then click back on it once. Now I can change the text properties. On the right-hand side is your text panel. And then I'm going to just type in that font since I know what it is and hit enter. And then what I'm going to do, I have my letter here. And then I'm going to come to the left-hand side. I'm going to draw a card base. So I'm going to use the example of a standard US card. It's going to be width-wise, it'll be 5.5. And then the height is going to be, the total card is going to be 4.25, so it'll be double. So it'll be 8.5. I think I did that right. Nope, hold on. I have to unlock this. I got to make sure I do this right. Yep, 5.5. Yeah. And then I'm going to draw my score line. So I'm simply going to come to the left-hand side, grab the draw line tool, click and click. I just need it across between in the middle. If I hold my shift key down, it's going to draw a straight line. And then I'm going to left click, drag across both of these, and I'm going to use the align tools, and I'm going to center it, and I'm going to align the middle. Now my score line is in the middle of my card. I'm going to use a dashed line for this. So I'm going to come over to the right-hand side to the line style panel, and I'm going to select the large dashed line. That's what I use. Now, I did not draw it edge to edge. If I did, I would shrink it down because I don't want the score lines to cut through the very edge of my card. That's just a personal preference for me. And then just to be on the cautious side, I'm going to align this again and see if it moves. It doesn't move. So once I have that, I'm going to select both, left click and drag across both of those. And I'm going to right click and choose group. Now I have my card, and I designed it this horizontal way simply because this letter, we can enlarge this letter now, is more of a horizontal than a vertical. I can get it larger on my card horizontally than I can vertically. Usually I would draw a rectangle that's 4.25 by 5 or 5.5 here by 4.25, and I'd align it within that rectangle to get it centered within my card. Because I have this excess space, we'll just go ahead and do this. Let's show you on the screen because I think it's better, easier to understand if you see it. So I'm going to make this rectangle the same size as my card, 5.5, or my finished card will be. My letter has excess space around it. If I select both and I center it and then align the middle, that is not centered because of that excess space. It is centered to the selection box, but it is not centered. So you can, what I would do, if you're looking for quick and fast and easy, I'm going to pull my card base back in here. I'm going to scale it to the size that I feel is good. And then I can eyeball. If I click on my card base, this shows me this little green dot and this middle bounding box are the center of my card. So you can eyeball it that way. Right now, this sort of looks a little off center to the left with the wing. So I could just simply use my arrow keys and bump it over to the right. Quick card. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to stress, which if you've watched some of my other videos, I always say I like things perfectly aligned. I'm not stressing about this. I'm going to set this one up, open the page setup panel, click on first set up my page. Letter size is what I would typically print on. And then turn my registration marks on. Select my card, and I'm going to move that to the center. I'm going to send this to print and cut. And I will add links to print and cut steps in the additional resources. So you have a card, and I will show this up front or closer up one simple card. So there's one idea. So far in the comments, let me know what you would use, what you think you could use a color font for. I don't want to give you all my ideas, but let's drop some ideas of projects in the comments below, and we'll see how many you guys can come up with that I already have in my head or that I have written down on my page. Stickers. Okay, stickers. Looks like we're on this card. So it looks like we're on the same lines. While you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to open a new design mat. Oh, save your file, because if you've already drawn this card base once, save it and then come back to it the next time you want to design. And actually, you could save it as your template file, and then you have it easy peasy for the next time to go around. Bookmarks. Oh, that's a good idea. Title for a scrapbook page. You know what, Lynette? That's a good idea. Let's see how long this next one takes me. I have a trick for that. I think you could do that. I just wrote your name on my piece of paper. That's not what I was looking for. Scrapbook page or title. I think with the next demonstration, you might see where my thought process is going with that scrapbook titles. Notebooks, labels. Awesome. You guys thought of some that I did not think of. Home decor. I put it onto Canvas. That is what is in my written tutorial. Was I used printable heat transfer material and put it onto a canvas frame so you could use it for home decor. Mini calendars or large calendars, either one. And you guys got stickers. I just added planner stickers to mine. So either way. So you could save this file, save. Always save your files. So we have first demonstration, sublimation items. Yes, because you don't, for most sublimation, you do not have to cut around it. So for the next one, I'm going to change this to a full 12 by 12, just because it's better for you guys to see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can work with these and make a card, double-sided. You could try to do double-sided if you wanted to. I went easy, simple, and I'm going to show you how to do a shaped card from that. So I'm going to start again at the beginning, click on my letter on the left-hand side, or, you could come back to your file. I already had the text tool selected. So click on your letter E, Control C, Control V, and we're already there. The text style is already selected. If I double click in here, I can change my text. So I'm just going to change this to an H. Well, okay. I'm going to make the H, and then we'll see where we go. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out a rectangle to use as a template. I'm going to uncheck the lock aspect, and I'm going to change this to 4.25 by 5.5, which is my card size. This way I can kind of gauge how large I want to make it. Again, my selection box is too big, so I can't simply just use the align tools. So I'm just going to kind of gauge that. And I'm going to make it just a little tiny bit smaller than the 4.25 by 5.5, just so it'll fit in the envelope with all the, it's not a typical card shape. And once I have that, I'm going to move my template rectangle out. And what I can do is, remember I said you cannot change the color font without losing your image. Let me make a note here because I forgot one thing on the last demo. Okay. I want to make sure to cover that. So to make a double-sided card, I'm going to Control C, Control V, and I'm going to make a copy, and I'm going to save my graphic off of my cutting mat. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to choose Ungroup, and now I no longer have those graphics. But what I do have is I have the cut line. So I can come in here, and I can come to my replicate panel on the right-hand side, and I can choose the mirror left, and I have a mirrored image. Now, a quick way, I'm going to zoom in here. This is exactly touching, so it would cut through. It is not overlapping. So a quick way to make this overlap is I'm going to come over to the left-hand side, and I will cover that in just a second, Tracy. Great question she has. I'm going to come over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to choose the draw rectangle, and I'm simply just going to draw a rectangle out between the two of them. Doesn't have to be a particular size. And then if I left click and I drag across both of the H shapes and my rectangle, I am going to come up here and choose the align middle. Then I can look at this. So let's zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to look at the ends and just make sure that's where I want that card to meet. It gives it some definition. This one is just a tad long. So I'm going to click on the rectangle and just move that down just a little bit. So then I have a rectangle between my two H's, or two sides to my card. If I left click and drag across both of those and right click and choose weld, now I have my card shape. I can add a line, so draw a line, and I'm simply going to, again, I don't like to go to the very edge, so I'm just going to come in and I kind of place it in the general vicinity. But if I left click and drag across my card design and my score line, I can then use the center option, and it's going to center it right between the two of those. Because they were perfectly butted together, it should center it right where it should be. If I click off of it to deselect it, I'm going to click back on that line, and I'm going to change it for my preference to use a dashed line. And then now I have my card base. I'm going to select both of those, right click and choose group. So now I have my card base. I can come in here, and because I can't use the align tools, it's not going to work. You do have to place this by hand, but it's usually very, very easy, especially if you use the zoom tools and zoom in here. If you need to move it over a small amount, right here, I can see that there's just a teeny tiny amount. I just use my arrow key to move it to the left. And then I'm going to inspect the rest of the card just to make sure. So it's off a little bit down here. And that's kind of normal for graphics, just because, you know, it's tracing those outer edges of a graphic image. So the larger you scale it up, you may have more of those. Those little white edges, I'm not going to be too worried about. And I have a second card design that is now a double-sided or a shaped card. So I would set this up to print and cut the same way. I'm going to zoom out here so you can see my whole screen. Yes. Vanessa's asking, do you use the dash line as cuts instead of a score line? Personally, yes, I do. That is basically because I'm lazy, more so because for the last 20 years, score lines have been dash lines in Silhouette. When I started with Silhouette, there was no option to do a score line or have the option in the send tab to do score lines. And there was no embossing tool or anything like that. So as we've gone along, they've added new things into the software and new features. But the dash line for most projects, it doesn't bother me because I'm so used to it. So I know some people don't like that, especially if you've come from something like Cricut, where they do have a scoring function. But it's one of those things I just need to get in the habit more of. It's kind of like this quick access toolbar up here. When I started in the software, and for the first probably, I don't know, 5 years at least, 6 years, this wasn't up here. The software actually looked completely different until 2016. And then it all changed, kind of like it's all changing with version 5, which I guess I should mention, I am not using version 5. I am using version, I'll show you here, 4.5.812. That is the version I am recommending right now. Version 5 has been released. It does look completely different, and it has a lot of issues and bugs. So I am not teaching in it, and I am not using it unless for some beta reason, I have to. Vanessa says she likes the dash line. I do feel, I mean, I have tried it. Always. I have tried it as a score line with the blade scoring. I don't like that, particularly because you have so much testing that goes into how much is too deep on your cardstock, because all cardstock varies. And then I didn't like seeing the cut line for the score line. I just don't feel it's, for my cardstock, it's not secure enough. Main reason is I'm used to the dash lines. But for some projects like 3D projects, or when you're working with a white core cardstock, it can be annoying. I will admit that. And then sometimes I might take the time to change those score lines. So in this project, I would set this up as a print and cut. Click on, first change your page size to the size you're printing on. And then in this case, I'm going to left click and drag across everything, right click, and I'll choose group. And I'm going to rotate this just because I have better luck. And with troubleshooting, I found, or a lot of us found, that portrait works better for print and cut than landscape. So you can then bring this in and you have your cut lines. Now, the one thing I do want to pop back to mention first here, and I don't know why when I printed this card, I didn't actually encounter this issue, but I'll be curious to see when I click on send. Interesting. So that's why I didn't have any issues. Even though I have this graphic, it does not put the cut line around that graphic once I have it grouped. If I go back here to the design tab, what I wanted to pop back to the first card and tell you was that when I go to send this card, I'm simply printing on the card base. You could cut the letter out and then glue it on top of your card base. That would be perfectly fine. In that case, you could get more than one to a page, which I can show here in a second. But in this case, if you wanted to do this, you want this image to print only. So you want to select it on the send tab and choose no cut. And then you have just the outer edge of your card. And I forgot to mention that. So I wanted to come back to mention that. Now, I don't know why this one, maybe it turned the cut, or now I made a copy. I don't know. I'll have to investigate that one. When I made a copy of it, and then on the copy, I ungrouped it. So I'm not sure why it didn't have a cut line, but it doesn't have a cut line. Double check your cut lines. That's the main thing. So if I come over here to the send tab for this one, you would want to just simply make sure that you don't have a full cut line around the graphic. If you do, it's going to cut your card in half. So, drop your questions in the comments. Tracy asked, can you offset the color font without losing the color? Let's do it on screen. I'm going to make my page size the full size again. And then let's just type out, we'll do LOVE because that's what the font is and because I have no imagination. And then I'm going to come over here to my text style panel and select that font. So I have love. Now, I can't change it. So if the spacing between the letters is not what you want, you would need to position every single letter separately. So let's experiment with this. Control C, Control V. I made a copy just so that I'm working off the copy. I'm going to select this and then I'm going to choose offset. And you can offset it. So then I would increase the offset so that everything is overlapping and click apply. So now I'm going to change this and make it pop on the screen for you. So now you can do an offset. So if you did not like the spacing between your letters, you would simply type out your letters individually. So I'm going to start here, just delete that. Double click in here, type an E, double click in here, V, double click. This one's going to be an O. And then I could position them now. If I left click and drag across them, all of these, let's zoom in. Remember, the selection boxes can vary. So in this case, all of the selection boxes look the same bottom size and actually the same top. So I could get away with using the align bottom, let me move these on the screen so you can see it. I guess I did pretty darn close. So then you could align the bottom there and then select everything. I would right click and I would group it. And then you could add your offset. With the offsets, if you want it one complete shape, you want it to overlap. So we can change the distance here and see how low we can go. About right there is probably where I feel comfortable because of this L over here. I'm going to click apply. Once you apply the offset, that is when it welds together, any overlapping. And then I'm just going to change this to purple so it pops for you on the screen. Judy says, wouldn't the rectangle box you put in to put the score line in remove the cut line? I don't believe so, but we're right here on the screen. So on this, it's not difficult to, let's just grab this E again, because it always, when something like that happens, double click in here and change it to an H. I always have to find out why. So let's just find out why. So here's my letter, Control C, Control V. Here's my graphic. I'm pulling that off to the side. Let's pull it back on and click on send. Well, that's weird. Okay, so neither one of them have cut lines on. Okay, let's undo. Ready? Before. That one doesn't have a. Oh, well, this one I know why. Okay, I fixed, that's user error. Let's start over. That is why. Because, okay, maybe that's what you were saying. Judy, that's a great point. It led me in the right direction but I hadn't turned the cut line off on this one yet. I had not showed you that. Okay, you see the wheels spinning? Because this is what we do. This is the troubleshooting that we go through. So I've just typed a letter H. I'm going to change this. And, okay, I started fresh, typed a new letter, click on send. It has cut lines. If I make a copy, whoops, I went too fast for my computer. If I make a copy, it has cut lines. It's just going to elude me. Maybe it was just something that was quirky, and I'm glad it happened on the camera because it reinforces for you to look for those cut lines on the send tab. Even though I don't know exactly why it didn't. If I choose ungroup, and then I'll just bring this back in here. We'll make it off center so we can see for sure. Interesting. Okay. I don't know if you guys, I can't explain it. There may be a reason, but once you move that graphic back onto the cut line, I guess because it says cut edge, because it was a text, that would be the reason. If you're in versions 4.3 and higher, okay, that is the reason. If using versions 4.3 something or other and higher, text defaults to cut edge. And that is exactly why when I brought that back in on top of the card base, it did not have a cut line. Because once it was overlapping, it's going to cut the outer edge of anything that's deemed text. So in this case, that covers the H. So we solved it together. Definitely threw me for a loop. Yes, let me see here. Robin said, thank you for highlighting Suzanne Cannon's or Quiet Fire designs. Let me just grab this real quick here. I saw her post this week, and that her font didn't get, approved. She had it out there for over a week before Valentine's Day, and it didn't get approved. So I was like, I'm just going to use that. I guess I have to be logged in. I'm looking over here really quick. Drop your questions in the comments for me if you have those. She is under the design store as Suzanne Cannon. Her business name is Quiet Fire. And I will grab a link here. Trying to navigate the new design store. But that brings me up to another point. I wanted to show you some additional options in the design store. So we'll go for that next as soon as I can get myself logged in here. That's what you are seeing me when I'm looking at the right. So let's see here. What questions? Vanessa says, got it. Good find. I got there with your help, with all of your help. It didn't, when I made the cards earlier, it did not even dawn on me that it didn't do that cut line. Now, in older versions of software, that's not how it was. And I will mention here, because of that change of all text diverting to cut edge, that can make your sketch fonts act funny. I'll put the link to the sketch live that I did, and I show that, and some sketch resources as well. But if you ever encounter a sketch font that has broken lines in it, that is why. The broken lines, because it defaults to cut edge when you have a sketch that is almost a single line design, it doesn't pick up all of it because it's set on cut edge. So you simply have to select the font and choose cut or sketch, whatever it designates in there, what you have it set to. So Robin said, thank you for highlighting her designs. I am going to drop the link for Quiet Fire. I hit enter too soon. There is my affiliate link. You can use the code secrets, hopefully. I have had a couple people tell me that it doesn't work. It flashes a little notice on there that says it cannot be applied to a subscription. If you have a subscription, you may have already gotten the code when you signed up or when your subscription fee was out. I don't know. I've sent an email off. I'm not sure why, but everything seems to be changing with their system, and it's up to me to find out what it is. So let's see. We covered the scrapbook titles. Let's come back here. So yes, you can do offsets. I was going to show you another method, but you don't really need it. You would use, I was going to say, if you could not do an offset, you would do the same method here of making the copy and then using this to create your offset after you have ungrouped it and gotten rid of the text or rid of the graphics. So that is what I have for you tonight. Are color fonts something you might see yourself doing? Oh, that's what I was going to show you here. Let me bring this on screen. So first off, I'll bring in, you can see that there's the Silhouette Design Store. Hold on a second. This is Suzanne Cannon with Quiet Fire Designs. She is also a calligraphy artist and has classes. So she does more than just design. She has several other classes on other topics on her site and on Teachable. She's on Teachable as well. So look for in the newsletter, I have a free file for the month of February from Suzanne Cannon. She has provided that. And then I also have her social media links there as well, so you can follow her. But here are some of her designs. She put quite a few in this in the month leading up to Valentine's Day. So you can see that these are the color fonts. So she's taken, let me zoom in here and see if it'll bring it up closer, if the design store will load for me. So she's taken the color font and she's made it into a candy holder. Using some of the same techniques. Now, I don't know what she designs. Actually, this one, she has made this into it. This is a cut file. The entire thing's a cut file, but it is based off of the color font. So you get an idea of how different things could be used. Now, if I come up here to the design store and just type in color font, we'll cross our fingers, it'll show up something. You have all kinds of options. Now, one thing I will point out, I have reported this. You may have already seen it, but files previews in the Silhouette Design Store show up as squished. That's why you see it on my screen. It's nothing I'm doing. It's nothing my computer's doing, but they kind of show squished. But you can see here that there are a lot of different options for color fonts. You have axolotl characters. I have kids that love those. So they are kind of neat creatures. We see them at the City Museum. All kinds of different things. So if you have any other questions, drop those in the comments now. Otherwise, that's all I have for tonight with color fonts. I would highly recommend you join and check out Suzanne Cannon at Quiet Fire Designs. And I really appreciate the designers working with me for the newsletter collaboration files. I love being able to try every month. I sit down or I sit in front of the TV and I start thinking of ideas of projects I can show you. And I do try to vary those projects. So a lot of designs can be cardstock related simply because when you're making multiple projects, that's where you get your variety. But, oh, here, let's switch over. I'm going to show you up close. If I can do this right, I got to go to the right screen. Stop sharing. Before we leave, this is the design for this February, or it's in Suzanne Cannon's store, in the design store. And she's also included this tropical fish pattern. So I did print and cut all the elements for this, but it is a 3D tote. This is the size, the original size of the file. You can scale it up just a little bit to fit on a 12 by 12. This is another project that I did with it. I created a card using the same elements and the tropical fish pattern. Question in, she rose beautifully. Can you show a tutorial for the 3D tote? I can do better than that because let me see here. Give me just a second. Suzanne already has a tutorial out there on it. And I would rather point you to that than recreate the wheel for the design. So here, let me grab the link real quick and I can drop that in there. So she has quite a few different tote styles and ideas that you can add to this. So this is a great thing to show. So here is the link for the tutorial for this tote. So it shows you how to put it together. So she's already done all that hard work for us, putting that together. I would recommend some strong adhesive. What did I use? I used a combination when I put these together, and I think my adhesive's old. So I've had to re-glue a couple corners. But here's the other card design. And I have at least 2 more projects, maybe more, coming out later this month in the newsletter, which gets delivered every Friday morning. Let's see. Thank you for the information on introduction to color fonts. Yes, thank you, Corey. Thumbs up. I guess YouTube uses that. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you all for joining me. If you do have questions after, or you come back and review the video or watching the replay, let me know in the comments below. I do read every single YouTube comment, and I will respond to those for additional information, as well as I will add additional information to the resources or to the links below this video for that. So if there's something that you're looking for, let me know. And it doesn't have to be related. I have years and years of tutorials. So if there's something you are looking for, even if it's not related to this video, let me know in the comments below and I will link up a resource for you. Thanks for joining me tonight. And until next month, have a great time. I'm still on. Bye.